So are we ready for our guest?
I think so. Is he ready for us?
He hasn't left yet, so that's a good thing. We'd like to welcome Ray Santiago, who is a candidate for Senate in New Jersey's 11th District. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
So kind of a tradition we have with all of our guests is we know you're here for a purpose, but let's kind of go back in time. Tell our residents about you as a person, growing up, where you grew up, and how you got to this stage in life.
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to. I was born in actually Puerto Rico, and my parents actually met in Brooklyn, New York, and moved to Puerto Rico. My father was originally from there, and they lived there for quite some time, and then they had the joy of having me. And they moved back to Brooklyn when I was about 5 years old, and that's where I grew up for most of my life, moving around from place to place, areas like Flatbush and East Bushwick, and then we moved more towards the other side of Brooklyn, Marine Park, and then ultimately to Mill Basin.
What are some of your best memories of growing up in Brooklyn?
The food, absolutely the food. I mean, there's just a diversity of food. Wonderful going to the Coney Island Boardwalk and going on the rides, and Nathan's Hot Dogs. You know, I mean, that's a wonderful place to be, and just the overall the sense of diversity and community that you have in Brooklyn. That I kind of miss a little bit of that myself. That I'm kind of rerouted myself down here to Freehill Township. So,
when did you move here, and what prompted you to move from New York to New Jersey?
I blame my wife. I moved here.
I can relate to that.
We grew up in Brooklyn, but what happened was my wife was originally from Staten Island. We got married, got an apartment in Brooklyn, and we were both working. She was a physician assistant working in the Lutheran Medical Center, and I was a prosecutor working in the district attorney's office in Nassau County. We were blessed with our first child, and my wife said to me, I need to be closer to family because with the child coming, we need to support a group of family. And she wanted to move out to Jersey because we have family in the whole Monmouth County area, Tinton Falls.
Or is it just because Jersey's really awesome?
It is.
Okay,
it is.
thank you.
Schools are phenomenal. The standard of living here is so much better. You want to always do better for your kids. Yeah. So, my wife talked and she made sense, and obviously I followed suit. We came out here. It was the best decision we ever made. So,
where are you now?
Now I live in Freehill Township. We are now blessed with 2 more children, so I have 3 kids.
Nice.
My oldest one, Alexandria, is 9. My son, Raymond, who's 8, and my little one, Julia, who's 6, who's got such a personality. So.
I understand you're an attorney?
Yes, I've been fortunate enough, after I left the prosecutor's office, what I did was, I realizing that on a government salary I could not afford to support my family the way I needed to, and I went into private practice and opened up an office in Freehill Borough, because it's the county seat, it's right next to the courthouse, and ultimately it's been 9.5 years now, and my practice is doing well. I've been able to hire attorneys to work for me and support staff, so it's taken a good direction, and what I'm looking to do now, obviously, is try and continue to grow that. And that's some of the reasons why I'm running, because of the difficulties that small businesses have and overall with the policies that are in place.
Well, it sounds like you've got a great thing going. Your law firm's growing, your family's growing. Why in the world would one of you hang out in Trenton and make your life difficult?
For those 2 reasons, because of my family and because of business. I mean, I've come to the point now, and really what happened was, it prompted me to get into this is, I see the economy going as sluggish as it is, and I didn't want to lay off a single employee. So I decided, I need to try to do is cut as much as I possibly can from our overhead expenses, and did the same thing on my personal. 2 days later, I got my new tax bill showing that my taxes, yet again, have gone up year after year after year. And that just frustrated me to the point of saying, do they realize that this is really hurting people, middle-class families who are just trying to really, pay taxes and support their families? We can't continue to have these taxes raised. And I started looking into what was happening, and looking at our budgets and seeing where was the waste, where was the things that we could be cutting without losing service, but actually saving ourselves money. The problem I had was that those who were presently in office really had no response to it. They want to continue to do the same exact stuff time after time without the same, you're not going to have a change of result if you don't make the change in what's going on. So that's just what the frustration got to me so much, to the point I said, you know what, if they're not going to change it, then I will. And I had an opportunity. I was asked to run for the state Senate, and I welcomed it, because with this new district, it really gives an opportunity for myself to really have those positive things that are going to really help middle-class families, help our seniors who have been hurt the most over the last 2-year period. I mean, this is really what got to really drive me to do this. And at the same time, helping small businesses really try and start up or to grow.
Now, you mentioned seniors, which obviously is our demographic.
Sure.
With the Seabrook residents sitting at home watching right now, what can you tell them that would make them want to vote for you?
Sure. I mean, we're very blessed to be in a country that allows us to pick the people who are going to choose how we live our lives. The United States is one of the best countries there are. This is why people always try to come here, because we have an opportunity. We're losing that opportunity year after year. I mean, what made the U.S. wonderful was that we used to produce. We used to be a great nation that always was a fantastic producer for other people to buy from. We're starting to lose that. We're starting to become a nation of just consumers, and we're not producing any longer. We need to really return to what made America great. Hard work, determination is really what helped make this country as good as it is, and I'm seeing a sense that we're losing that. My adversary, with regards to what policies she's backed and what she's voted for, she's hurt seniors particularly more than any other demographic there is. They took away the senior freeze program last year. There was no senior freeze, so that there were seniors who were really counted on the fact of having their property taxes not rise any longer were really hurting. Luckily, they put back a portion of that, which says if you make up to $70,000, your property taxes are going to be frozen, but if you're over that, then your property taxes are going to continue to rise year after year. Despite the fact that your income is now reduced, despite the fact that your income is now at fixed, increasing property taxes are driving seniors out of this country, and particularly in the state. The problem I have also is that taking away the property tax rebates has in effect given our seniors an average 13% tax increase. And at the same time, those people who are making $1 million a year or more have gotten a $40,000 tax break. That to me just seems unfair. People who can afford it least are being hurt the most, and people who can afford to pay are being given tax breaks as opposed to really paying their fair share.
This is the first election since the election of Governor Christie. Do you view this election as a referendum on him, or what did he and his administration do that you agree with? What are some of the things that, obviously, you've mentioned some of them that you disagree with?
I don't consider this to be a referendum on the governor. The governor will face his opponents and his proponents on 2013. This is really a question of whether or not Jennifer Beck has done what she's supposed to do. There are things that the governor has done that I wholeheartedly support. As I said, the reason that got me into this race is the high cost of property taxes. And I support the governor, especially like, for example, his toolkit. I think the toolkit is something that we need to take advantage of, and we need to really foster and continue going forward. We haven't seen the results yet, and maybe over the next 10-year period, we may see that the stabilization of property taxes might be there. But what I look at this really more so is that, I'll support the governor wherever he's right, wherever he's going to help us actually help our seniors, help our middle class. But I'm also not going to be a rubber stamp, as my opponent has said. She's been quoted saying, I'll support the governor 99.999% of the time. And nobody in any party should ever support someone just because it's their party. You have to put people before you put your own party, people before politics, because make decisions because they help people, regardless of whether or not it's a Republican, a Democrat, or independent who's making the proposition. What I want to see happen really is a scenario where we are going to give to people who need it the most. Our seniors and middle class are the ones who are hurting the most right now, so I think I want to really focus upon that two areas of people who are in need.
So now you're running a law firm, very serious stuff. You're running for office, very serious stuff. You're raising a family, serious stuff. What do you do for fun? How do you relax?
Well, I run our Cub Scout group in our township.
That's more work.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I always remind myself, you can do things in life, and you can sit back and you can watch TV and relax. And I love to read, and whenever I have the opportunity to do that, I certainly do. But I've been someone who grew up really in poverty. The wonderful thing about my life was that I was able to do and get to where I'm at now, which is I had the ability to go to law school. I had the ability to go through college. It wasn't without sacrifice. It wasn't without hard work. There came a point, growing up in Brooklyn, where my parents split up. My mom was a single mom, just working very hard, 2 jobs to try and really just put food on the table. And then she lost her jobs, and we found ourselves without a place to live and without food to actually eat. And we became reliant upon going to the local church, which would hand out either blocks of cheese or cornflakes or something. The school programs gave breakfast and lunch. And then until about 2.5 years, I bounced around from family member to family member, and we finally got Section 8 housing, and it allowed us to have a place to live. And that drove me, that determination of seeing how life could be so difficult. Never wanted to be in that situation again. So now I'm constantly on the go. I'm always trying to say, what can I do to help, to give back, to really be a part of this? So if I'm involved with the Cub Scouts, I'm trying to do it for the kids. I'm trying to make the kids have a better experience in life. I was fortunate when, back in Brooklyn, there was a Boy Scout troop that allowed me to go there without actually charging me any money at all because they knew we had no money. And it was the best thing for a kid in Brooklyn to be able to go out camping and to have a campfire. I enjoyed it, and this is an opportunity for me to do that.
This is a weird district in that you've got literally millionaires in Colts Neck and people well below the poverty line in Asbury or Neptune, Long Branch. How do you balance that when you're going to face, if you're elected, you'll face issues that one will help and one will hurt? And it kind of ties into, I think, the biggest issue in New Jersey, which is the cost of education, where you have a per pupil cost in Colts Neck, probably lower than a per pupil cost in Asbury, but the quality of education is totally different. So how do you balance that in a diverse district like this?
Well, it's about equity, it's about fairness, and that's what it comes down to. No one should be getting more than they really need, and no one should be taking no money away. I mean, you have areas like, for example, Frio Borough and Red Bank, which have school districts where they need additional funding, but because they were not considered to be one of the avid schools, they get less funding than they really should. What we need to remember is that we had an opportunity, and the opportunity was, and my opponent voted against the millionaire's tax, which would have given us $632 million. That was enough money that we could have funded every single school in this entire district, I'm sorry, in the entire state, at the funding that we had prior to all the slashes that were put in place. And also protect our seniors with regards to the financials that we have there. We took away programs from these seniors and all the property tax rebates and everything else. So we have the ability. And what we've said is that doing that is not about trying to tax the rich and trying to redistribute wealth. It's about being fair. It's about being equitable in how we distribute taxes and how we actually help our students in these districts. The problem I've seen in Asbury Park is that there are redundancies of things that we can do away with. We know that throwing money at a problem doesn't fix it. So you have to look at the root of the problem. One of the things I've noticed in Asbury Park in particular is that there are a number of programs that are not utilized by students because they're afraid to walk home because of the gangs. And they don't stay after school to get the reinforcement of the lessons that they should be getting, or maybe they're not getting at home. So I've said, why are we not redistributing some of the money that's already going there to a busing system that will allow the kids to stay in the school, utilize the programs, get the education they need, reinforce the lesson, and then go safely home so we don't have to worry about the kids being killed on their way home. The problem I know in my own home, my kid comes home from school and says, I don't have any homework. Let me see your school folder, because I know that they're getting homework every single night. When my son has to read a book, and I'll tell him he has to read for 20 minutes, we don't turn around and say, did you read the book 20 minutes, and say, okay, that's fine. Well, now tell me about the story. I want to make sure you comprehend. Children need that reinforcement, and when they're not getting it because of the area that they live in, they need to have that extra help. So do you have to give more in Asbury Park than you would in Colts Neck? Yeah, you probably do. We don't have to give as much as we've been doing. We have to really find ways where we can cut. One of the things that we should be doing, and we fail to do, and I don't understand why my opponents haven't done this already, is really forcing bulk purchase agreements. Bulk purchase agreement is going to allow the municipalities and the school districts to go out and buy things in bulk. And listen, I go to Sam's Club to buy things in bulk because we save money overall. If you know you're going to need it, you're going to buy it, you have it. Well, why don't we do that for our health insurance costs and our supplies and the fleets of vehicles that these municipalities and schools may need? Because then you're going to drive down the cost without losing any of the employees. You're not going to lose any control over service, and you'll still have the money that we need. You're going to save over $60 million by doing this without a change in anything. So this is what we really need to focus on, as well as actually creating jobs. For a scenario where we have the highest, higher than the national average unemployment rate, we're higher than all our neighboring states of New York and Pennsylvania and Connecticut. Without a healthy job economy, we don't have income tax, we don't have people here, we have to pay unemployment, so we don't have that extra surplus of income that's coming into the state. So of course, that's why property taxes are higher now than they have been in 4 years. You're slashing municipal aid, you're slashing school funding, and you have the highest unemployment rate. That's a recipe for disaster. So we have to really focus on fixing those things so we can really help Asbury Park and Colts Neck.
Right. Well, Ray Santiago, running for Senate for the 11th District. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you,
and can we remind everybody, because I can't remember, what day is Election Day now?
November 8th.
November 8th, so get out and vote. So,
and I know that we're also working with your staff to try to nail down a date where you and your slate can meet residents, and possibly next week. But when we nail that down, we'll make sure the residents are aware of it.
We'd love the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Appreciate it.
so much.